we have a guest today. We will bring on Isaac Hayes III. So
Yes.
Isaac Hayes is somebody that's been on Earn Your Leisure. He's been on InvestFest.
Yep.
And now he's he's finishing the Holy Trinity of the situation by coming on Market Mondays. Very few people have done that.
Yes.
So he's in rare air.
Triple crown.
Triple crown winner.
For sure.
Yes.
Triple crown. Triple crown for sure. So yeah, Isaac always a lot of energy, talking about the landscape of social media. He's created his own social media platform, Fanbase, Black-owned social media. So it's a few different conversations to be had here. Tech conversation, social media conversation, equity crowdfunding conversation, business startup conversation, variety of different things. So yes, can we bring Isaac up to now? What's going on, my brother?
Love the background.
Good, man. Long overdue. Glad you're here.
I done made it to the Triple Crown. What?
Hey.
Yes.
Legend in 3 games.
Oh my goodness. Thank you guys so much, man.
Nah, no problem,
for being here, man.
So, all right, so let's get into it. So, all right, so you recently just closed a round. I believe you raised $10 million as a Reg C Equity Crowdfunding, correct?
Yeah, Reg CF. Yeah, 10 million in 3 rounds.
So, all right, and you're the first black man to do that?
Yes. History has been made.
Kudos to that.
Congratulations. So can you explain to the audience what exactly does Reg CF Equity Crowdfunding? It's a lot of different words here. What exactly does that mean, and why is it significant, what you have been able to do?
Well, I think it's very important because African-American people and minorities have a really tough time raising capital for their businesses, going to banks to get loans, or going to venture capital to raise capital. And so in 2012, Barack Obama and Joe Biden kind of launched this regulation called the Jobs Act. And it went into law in 2015, which means any person can raise capital from the general public for their business, regardless of their net worth or annual income, up to $1 million. That was the first rule. So we did that in 2020. So think about how important that is for people that aren't accredited investors to invest, but then someone like me that had a startup that wanted to raise capital, but VC was not necessarily the route at the time, or me going to get a bank loan to raise in excess of $1 million. So that's why that's important for any business that you want to start, primarily, like small businesses, which Fanbase was at the time, to be able to raise capital is significant.
For those who want to break into the tech space, what advice and insights would you give those who may feel like it's not for us? And if you can do your journey all over again, what steps would you wish you would have taken to get here faster?
Everything's for us. We innovate everything. There's nothing that, we can't do as a people. So every single solitary thing that exists on the planet, we can go to space, we can build tech, we can, invent cures for diseases, all kinds of stuff. So I don't think there's anything we can't do. I would say study, learn the landscape. I had to study the landscape of social media. I was kind of like a person that used social media a long time before, but just studying the landscape of how social media works. It was interesting to be able to jump right in. I honestly would not change anything. And I know that sounds crazy, because I feel like my inexperience in the space gave me an opportunity to go down my own path and not try to follow what other people have done, which probably would have wound up dead ends or maybe had me discouraged in what I was trying to do. So I love everything about what we've been able to do. So I think it's extremely important. I think it's extremely awesome, and what we've been able to accomplish.
So talking about being naive to the space, a lot of times when you're naive, you're extremely creative. And that's something that Fanbase has stood on, being creative in a space, because obviously we don't have the same capital. And when I say we, I'm talking about the company, don't have the same capital as some of the big players inside the space. But what happens when you see your creativity being taken by a larger company or being implemented by a larger company with more capital? How do you guys combat that? How do you deal with it? What's the strategy?
Well, I have a belief that there's enough room for everybody. Doesn't mean that Fanbase will just be, extinguished out of the market. But I also think that every social media platform has a lifespan. It will live, it will die. And so I look at Facebook as a legacy platform. I look at Instagram and TikTok and X now as middle-aged platforms. And so there's always going to be another social media platform because young people are always going to want to be involved in platforms that their parents are not on. They want to have their own communities, their own spaces. And so I look at Fanbase as more as a successor, a future platform, as opposed to a platform that's just ready to be the #1 platform in the world right now. But over the next 5, 6, 7 years, I think that'll be, the case. I'm not really worried because what I notice, it tells me a lot. It tells me that I always look at Black culture and technology as kind of this relationship. It's like tech companies put a bunch of Legos on the table, right? And then we come along and make the coolest shapes and the coolest objects out of the Legos that are presented. And then these companies take those ideas and then implement them into their business. And then boom, you got this whole, entire new technology that's been invented or pioneered by us. So I think we'll always innovate the space. I'm not worried about that. I'm used to that.
So,
As amazing as the no, go ahead, Rashad.
Well, I was going to ask you about equity crowdfunding. I think that it's important for people just to have some level of understanding. So it's a way for people to actually invest in a company. It's beneficial for the companies because they can, get around the VC world and they can raise, substantial amounts of money. But from an educational standpoint, how do investors actually get paid on this? Because I know it can be difficult to receive, it's $500. It could be like, 10,000 people that contribute, right? So I think education is extremely important because when people aren't fully educated and they don't see a return or they don't know how to get the money back, well, then it turns into a scam. So that's important to fully educate people on the process of investing, what the expectations are, how it works, when they can get paid out, if they do get paid out, the percentage. Like, can you just walk us through that? Because like I said, I think that it's fully important. It's very important to educate people on that because if not educated, then, other narratives start to be created.
Yeah. So, I mean, you guys cover both areas on this show, but there's typically like pre-IPO investing and post-IPO investing. So post-IPO is when the company's on the stock market, you can go buy shares, NASDAQ, you know what I'm saying, and invest in companies and do stuff like that. Pre-IPO investing is really a very rarefied air that's really not available to most people because of this rule called the accredited investor rule. And this rule has been in effect since 1933, which means you have to have a net worth of $1 million minus your house or make $200,000 a year for 2 consecutive years to even qualify to invest in an early stage company. So when you think about the Microsofts, the Apples, the Ubers, the IBMs of the world, they were all invested in by already rich people. So it was rich people saying, hey, look, let's make a rule so that we get the earliest access to the best opportunities of investment and then tell the general public, we're protecting you by not risking your capital to invest in these companies because you're an unsophisticated investor. We don't want you to squander your life savings or your mortgage or whatever it is, to invest in these companies. But I always say, no one has a problem with us going to take our money and gamble $5,000, $10,000 in Vegas, or go buy lottery tickets, $5,000, $500 worth of lottery tickets. And so when you pre-IPO invest in a seed stage company such as Fanbase, I always say this: you are with us to the moon or the ground. So you get along, you are along for the ride, which every investor is. And there's not a company out here. There are people that have invested in startups that have gone unicorn and have gone bust. They still take that same risk. The difference with equity crowdfunding is that people are able to invest in small amounts, $250, $500. And I'm not saying that's not a lot of money, but sometimes there are minimums to invest in these other companies, these pre-IPO companies, $50,000, $25,000, $10,000. That's a lot. $5,000. That's a lot. But to be able to say, I can take $250, which is something that I would spend on food or some shoes or some drinks at the club, and invest in an early stage company is kind of a really big deal. And I think being able to take advantage of this regulation is something that is game changing for people. So I understand that people are always concerned about scams, but that's why I think there's it's called limited risk, because limited risk is you're investing $250. $500, $1,000. There's risk involved, but it's not you risking $100,000, $200,000, $500,000. And sometimes, people invest that in those pre-seed rounds as well.
Yeah, I just have to follow up to that. So when we go into raising, what determines the allocation that's going to be the amount raised, right? Because we'll see companies, or we'll hear it, they're trying to raise 2 million, they're trying to raise 5, 10, 15. What are the factors that you determine to saying like this is the amount that we need to raise? Is it marketing? Like, what are the things that go into account when you're trying to raise a specific amount?
Well, for me, I put it in perspective of equity versus valuation. So if I would say, okay, I'm going to raise my very first round, I was going to raise $1 million at a $20 million valuation, right? Mm-hmm. So that's like 2.5% of the company, or 5%. I'm sorry, 5% of the company. So it's not really a lot of equity to give away for $1 million, to get 5% of the company away at a $20 million valuation. So what you're typically looking to do for me is raise funds needed to run the business, but also be mindful of the equity that you're giving up in your business. Because a lot of times when you think about angel investing or VC investing, especially when you don't have capital, and I'll say this too also, I bootstrapped Fanbase in the beginning. So a lot of times tech startups need that early capital, that $100,000, that $150,000, $50,000 to get started. I spent $200,000 of my own money. So then I avoided giving up equity there, right? And a lot of times that's where you get hit the hardest. That first $150,000, $200,000 might cost you 10, 15% of your company, depending on which angel investor, which route you take. So I avoided giving away equity there. Then when it got to the point where I needed to raise capital, I saw the landscape and said, okay, this looks like the music business to me. This looks like the VCs are the record companies, the startup artists, and the Billboard charts and the App Store charts are very similar. So for me, I'm trying to stay independent as long as I can to put myself in a position to have leverage. So when I'm valuing my company, I'm still going by the same metrics that other companies have raised and set their valuation at, but I'm being mindful of not taking too much capital, right? Because I don't want to say, okay, Fanbase right now is probably at this current round we just did was valued at $85 million, right? So if I said, okay, I'm going to raise 30 million at an $85 million valuation, that's like 33% of the company. I don't need that. I don't need that, I don't need that kind of stuff. So for me, I say, let's keep the valuation low, but enough to continue to scale the company. Now we're getting into escape velocity zone with Fanbase, where we need to raise large amounts of capital to spend that capital faster, to build our team, to build faster, better products faster, and move quicker. So I think we've proven ourselves in this Reg CF space. I think I'm done with the Reg CF space. I think I've mastered it and I'm pretty well versed in it. But now we're moving into where we raise escape velocity capital, and that's extremely important.
As a Black founder, do you feel like you get enough support and love from the Black community? And if not, what can we do to alter that?
I will say no. Here's the thing. I say I get support. We have to be realistic about this. We have our own human biases. So one thing I'll say is anybody out here starting a business, please expect that the people that know you the best to support you the least. It's just the comfortability that we have with one another. I'm not saying it's right or it's wrong, but you'll get more support from strangers that don't have a bias of knowing you or feel comfortable saying, I'm going to get around to it. I understand that. I think in our world, I get it from a multitude of angles because I understand that the establishment, the legacy platforms that exist don't want to see someone like me succeed in this space, because once you take tech and culture and put it together and it's under one roof, there's no place to exploit Black culture. Then when it comes to us, I think sometimes, well, I'll say, and I'll use this in the tech side, I'm a newcomer. I'm an outsider. Fanbase has gone on to raise more money than some people that have gone to school for this. So I think there's a little bias there. Like, who is this guy coming from the music business, raising money and doing better than we doing? I don't like him, so I'm not going to support him. And then thirdly, I think in our community, and this is just a realistic thing, sometimes we have a problem enriching ourselves beyond ourselves. I say that like quite a bit, meaning, and this is a true story. I'll say this. I'll leave names out, but my point is someone could come to, let's say I could go to someone and say, hey, I could go to someone Black and say, hey man, put $1 million in this company. man, you're going to make like $1 billion out of this, right? And the truth of the matter is, if they make $1 billion, I might make 10 billion, right?
Yeah.
You'll say, no, I'm not doing that. I'm not about to make you, I'm not about to let you leapfrog past me. But if I were white and said, you put $1 million in this and you're going to make $1 billion and I'm going to make 10, it's totally fine. So we have to get over that notion of trying to enrich ourselves past ourselves, because now what is it? We have 13 black billionaires. Magic just joined the party, right? So it's like 13 black billionaires in the United States of America, right? So I think that there needs to be 30 more. I think there needs to be, and with 30 more, black billionaires, that's going to in some way diminish the voice of the 13 that exists now, right? Because it's like, I always say this, black people only listen to like 5 people. They listen to Robert Smith, Oprah, Jay-Z, Tyler Perry, and Diddy and Magic Johnson. And they
got most of the list knocked out.
Yeah, that's the Invest Fest lineup right there.
Lineups and all that.
Invest Fest lineup.
Jeez.
Right, but my goal is to create. We need Earn Your Leisure. We need you guys to be there because you're younger. We need you to be a billionaire. We need Kai Cenat to be a billionaire.
Yeah.
We need Ian Dunlap to be a billionaire. We need myself.
Yes.
We need more women billionaires, like to spread these voices, because everybody has a different path, and this is a different world. So we need to spread that billionaire mindset to everybody. And I know that's difficult for some people to kind of grasp, but it's like thousands of billionaires in the United States of America. We got 13 black ones. No, man, we need like 13 more, like ASAP. So that's just how I feel.
There's a tech component to the company. There's a media component to the company. Just real quick, when you talk about valuations, what are the multiples in this industry?
What do you mean?
As far as when you talked about you raised at an $85 million valuation, is it on a 10x multiple, or is like how are we evaluating the multiples inside of?
So typically in tech, what you're able to value your company at, in my world, is based on the metrics and the data that we have presented and created ourselves. Like, think about this. I'll give you a prime example. So Fanbase has raised $10 million at an $85 million valuation. We now have over 500,000 users. If I were to take a platform like Patreon or a platform like Clubhouse and say what they were able to go to VCs and get when they had 2,500 users, they were able to go get a check for 10 million for 2,500 users. They were able to go raise 100 million at $1 billion valuation with 1 million users. So my point is that, we value our companies based on, and the SEC requires you to do that. You can't just throw a value on your company. You have to say who around you. It's kind of like comps.
Yeah.
Like, who around you has raised money in the space that you're saying your company's valued at this and it's valued at that. Now, also, and this is just the reality of it, is it's just like what people are willing to pay for also provides the value. If Kanye West says a $12 t-shirt is worth $150 and somebody buys it, it is now a $150 shirt.
Yeah.
So if someone invests in a company and says, I value my company at X, and you get these investors to come in and invest at that valuation, then your company is valued at that. If you get validated, but sometimes VCs want to be the ultimate validator of that. And I can understand why, but you also see companies doing fraud, having fake users, just making up valuations, doing all kinds of crazy things. So the market is also poisoned by people that aren't really virtuous and showing, their real numbers, or or being honest about what it is. I can guarantee tell you, truthfully, Fanbase has 500,000 users, right? We've raised $10 million. And so I'm not flubbing this, because I also understand the position. I'm black. I can't make any mistakes. I can't. I don't even take a salary at Fanbase. So I can't be the guy, right? And I said this in the video. I said the lack of coverage that I get from black media is astounding to me, especially when two things. First black man to raise 10 million in Reg CF crowdfunding. And I literally invented in-app purchase-to-purchase subscription on apps from Apple and Google, right? But I said, if I were to get caught stealing money from Fanbase, I'd be on.
Oh yeah, you get all the coverage.
Essence, Emily, case founder stealing. Like, we gotta support people that are doing also amazing things.
If you aren't getting the support from the black media and black community, what is your plan to grow and scale the user base?
So it's really community. We talk about celebrities all the time, and everybody says, how come this celebrity isn't on the platform, or this celebrity isn't on the platform? And I say, celebrities don't make apps, communities do. And so Fanbase is an ever-growing community. Now, every now and then, apps will make mistakes. They'll make changes. X will do something. Clubhouse will do something. Instagram will do something. TikTok will do something that will alienate a user base, and we'll take advantage of that. But it's always community. Once you start building a community and keep fostering the community and letting it grow, that's really what I'm focused on. I would love the attention, but those things come and go. Those peaks and valleys. Platforms like this are actually more important to me than some of the like tabloid, opportunities like, that other people are on, but where people that are really interested in the information that are really, dedicated to learning and understand about tech, and building community and stuff like that. This kind of platform is extremely important. And I've had the opportunity to be on all of these shows, Invest Fest, everything. And I'm so appreciative of that. So it's just about community building. I want to keep continuing to build community. I want to thank you guys for always, let me come on here and talk about this, because this is one of a kind. This is very, very different. I say this a lot. I say that, Fanbase is the most successful social media platform that's Black founded since Black Planet. And that was in the year 2000. It's 2023.
Yeah.
And I know that there are a bunch of smart, wealthy Black people that have existed between 2000 and 2023. So how come no one has done it? And I say that it is very, very hard. This is one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. It looks easy until you really got to build technology, build community, and it's a whole different ballgame. Everybody will tell you what you should be doing. Well, you need to do this and you need to do that. Well, if that's the case, everybody would have built a social media platform by now, and it would have been easy to do. So this is something that I take very, very seriously, and I'm dedicated to.
If I can do a follow-up, what's been your greatest challenge in the last 5 years in building a brand and scaling it?
The fact that I'm associated with the brand, right? Before COVID, like the first year that Fanbase existed, I told no one that it existed. I didn't tell anybody that I actually had built a social media platform, because again, being Black, we got to prove ourselves. So I was like, I don't want to call up everybody that I know and say, download the app, because as soon as I get in front of a VC, they're going to say, oh, you got 10,000 users, 20,000 users. How did you get those users? And I was like, well, I called my friends up and they were like, well, that's not real data. We need real users. So I let the platform grow to have, 10,000 users. And my plan was to always stay behind the scenes. Then COVID happened and then we couldn't move. And we really still needed to raise capital, because I couldn't, $200,000 is a lot. I can't keep going. So we had to raise some capital. So when you do Reg CF Equity Crowdfunding, you actually are the spokesperson for your brand and what you're doing, which is a gift and a curse. And so sometimes people associate you with the brand, but it also means that you're investing in the founder. And so someone like me, if you see my work ethic, if you see the way that I take, how seriously I take Fanbase, how hard I work for it, that I'm dedicated. So my plan was to never be outside. I honestly had plans of having somebody else be CEO and really do the ghost in the machine like before.
Yeah.
It's too late, but things change, and and the world changed. We had George Floyd, and Black founders were more accepted, and there was a lot more dedication and commitment to helping the Black community. So I think things shifted, and it was an opportunity that I had to take advantage of at the time and say, look, I can't be behind the scenes. I have to raise this capital.
So you guys are the leading content monetization social media platform?
We are the ones that innovated the space. I don't know like everybody's numbers, but I know that from the perspective of removing limitations on how people monetize their content, Fanbase has no limitations. I talk about that. There is no shadow banning. There's no content suppression. It's a social network. You're allowed to be yourself. You can set a price point between $2.99 and $99 a month. And every single person on the planet with a smart phone has the ability to subscribe to you if they so choose for content you create. I always emphasize that Fanbase is free. So think of it as like any free social network, but then people want to put content behind paywalls and subscribe and monetize. And I think that concept is so new that people don't even really understand it. They really don't get it. It's like going from CDs to MP3s. It was like, what are we doing? We're not buying physical products anymore. It's like subscriptions are coming in a way that I don't think people really, really see. And I mean, for you guys and the businesses that you guys have, I would tell you, like the guy that's saying winter is coming in Game of Thrones, or the Afro, like subscriptions are coming. And and the reason how I know this is I'm looking at the younger kids. I'm looking at, again, like Kai Cenat. I say this again, Kai Cenat is going to be a billionaire within 5 years. He's going to be worth $1 billion because he's building a subscriber base, people that pay month over month for the really creative, cool content that he makes. And in the middle are all these people these last 10 or 15 years that have been trying to get famous enough to get brand deals and big platforms for their metrics and their, you know, their visibility, and then come pay me to post. Those days are
over with.
It's about going straight to the bag from person to person.
So how are you able to not? I mean, at some point you're going to have an algorithm that suppresses people's content, right? Right?
No.
How are you going to be able to not do that?
Great question.
The only thing that algorithms that are going to do are to be able to protect people from, I think algorithms are good to protect people from, like, protect kids from predators, right? Protect negative, like filter negative comments, things that might be viewed as homophobic or racially insensitive or racist or stuff like that. But other than that, no, I think algorithms exist to suppress content so platforms can make money. That's the only reason why your content is suppressed on social media. There's no reason why. Like Elon, like one thing that Elon did the other day, and I thought it was really amazing, right? And it should have woke people up. And when these things happened, was he went live on X and he was playing, I can't remember what game it was, but he had 1 million people watching him play live. 1 million people watching him play a video game live. How come everybody can't do that? The reason is because the advertising component that is built into social media platforms has to limit your visibility. So those brands don't see you with 1 million viewers and come up to you and say, look, post this commercial in between you playing your video game, $500,000, right? So they have to squish you down to force brands to come do business with them and not do business with you. That is the reason why content is suppressed. That's the only reason why. In Fanbase, like I said, if you wind up with 300 million followers on Fanbase, we are going to send your content to 300 million people, without a doubt. And we will always deliver the content to your following and then some, because we want that major visibility. And I actually saw Gary Vee talk about this. I saw Gary Vee in a video a couple of days talk about it. He goes, I think the platforms of the future are when people get like 1 trillion views on a video, like, you know, 1 billion, like 2 billion views. And I'm like, that is the future, because it's possible now, but advertising is in the way of these companies that are 97% of Facebook's revenue comes from advertising. They can't just switch to subscriptions on a dime. So they still suppress your content. They still got to kind of keep you pressed down so they can build the metaverse and make this money. But again, if you're not disrupting, you know, technology and trying to ruin a party for the people that are already on top, you're doing it wrong. So I'm definitely here to try to kick over some sandcastles and make some noise.
So you spoke about the legacy brands, you spoke about the middle-aged ones, and you spoke about being disruptive, which is important. But a lot of times when we see what happens with disruptive companies is that the people, the legacy brands, look at it and say, you know what, rather than having them continue to disrupt, let's try to acquire them. So I wonder if that conversation has happened to Fanbase, and obviously, I mean, you haven't sold the company, but is that something down the road that potentially could happen?
Well, to the investors, people that have invested in Fanbase, be clear that the exit strategy has been in place from day one, which is either an acquisition or an IPO and go public. When an acquisition happens, someone comes and purchases Fanbase at a valuation higher than when you invested. Let's say you invested at 20 million and someone comes and buys Fanbase for 50 billion. Then your shares get bought out at the $50 billion valuation and things are over with. Done. You wrap up, you get your bread, and we're out of here, right? So that's what Elon basically did when he took Twitter back private. He bought out all the investors. There's your cash. I take the company back private. That's similar to an acquisition. In an IPO, it's very, very similar where, okay, the company goes public at a high valuation and you sell all your shares the day that it hits the market and exit out, or you sell some of your shares and say, look, I'm gonna keep some of my money in Fanbase. I'm gonna ride this out for a little bit of while. So that has always been the strategy and the eventuality of investing in Fanbase. And that's typically what happens when you invest in the seed stage of a company. I know Oren Michaels is probably sick of me because I talk about him all the time, but he put $5,000 into Uber in 2010. And when the company went public in 2019, his $5,000 was worth $24 million. That doesn't mean he sold all his shares and took $24 million, but he could have that day. And that's my point, is to say, man, I put $5,000. He might let me sell 75% of my shares and still keep the rest of the company, and then let that continue to grow over the next 10, 15, 20 years. So that is always the eventuality. I think right now companies are watching Fanbase with fear rather than it's beat them. We're still in the beat them phase. We're not in the join them phase yet. It's like, if you can't beat them, join. Right now they're trying to beat me, right? And eventually, it's like, we can't beat them, we got to join them. And then that's a different conversation to have. But that's a conversation that I want to have, that I make sure that the investors that have invested in the company are having a great return. You guys do this every day and talk about investing all the time. I think like 7% return is a good return on an investment, if I'm not mistaken. 7%.
Yeah, 7 to 12%.
Yeah, cool. So so that means if someone put $1 in the Fanbase and they get $1.07 back, I don't want to do that, right? I'm not doing it for that. I'm not doing it for somebody to put $250 in the Fanbase and get $500 back. I'm doing it for somebody to put $250 in Fanbase and get $100,000, $300,000, $500,000, $1 million in return. That is really what I'm doing it for, because when that is done, that'll be the largest distribution of wealth to African-American people in the history of this country. It'll create generational wealth at the stroke of a pen. It'll take people now.
Just to manage expectations, that's impossible, right? Mm-hmm. That's impossible.
What?
I get like the $250 is never going to turn into $1 million.
No, that's not impossible.
The probability is lower though, right? For legal reasons.
No, well,
that's what we're saying.
No, so in actuality, right? Take this for instance. Facebook has a market cap of $800 billion. Valued at $800 billion, right? If Fanbase goes to be $100 billion company, like right now, TikTok is still a privately held company that's worth about $350 billion. It's $300 billion, $350 billion company is still privately held. So if they IPO today, whoever was on there at day one, let's say it was valued at 20 million, right? Let's say somebody invested in TikTok or ByteDance when it was worth $20 million, and now they go and exit or IPO at 300 billion. That's a 15,000x return. Absolutely. That means if someone put, and you couldn't do this, but I'm saying for Fanbase, if someone put $250 in the Fanbase and we're $100 billion company, that's a 5,000x return. That's the same metric that Orrin Michaels got. That's the 5,000, his 5,000 turning into 24 million. That's somebody's $250 turning into 1.25 million. It is absolutely possible. That is exactly what I'm like. That's how serious I am about this. Like, I'm look at my face. I believe that Fanbase is well more than $100 billion company, because when you think about the amount of money, like, I don't think people understand the amount of money that is in subscriptions. It's like it's trillions of dollars. It's not billions, it's trillions of dollars. These larger platforms like Disney Plus and Netflix, they have the burden of spending $150 million, $100 million an episode, but being able to only charge $13.99 a month.
Yeah,
three of us can get together and shoot a movie on our phone and charge $13.99 a month. We don't have the overhead. Plus, everybody on the planet can subscribe, and we own the content. We call the shots and make the lion's share of the revenue. So I don't think people understand the available market. I'll say this again. If you are not monetizing your content through subscription, 5 years from now, you're going to regret that you did not start, because somebody's going to be worth $1 billion. You'll be like, yo, I'm more talented than him, or I'm smarter than him, or I rap better or sing better, or I'm a better performer, or whatever, and you just didn't start. So you have to start immediately.
Do you know what the total addressable market is for subscriptions in the social media space, or are you looking to attack subscriptions overall? So do you see like Patreon, Kajabi, Disney, all in the same?
Honestly, I'm not trying to be funny, but the total addressable market is every single person with a smartphone. Like I always say, it's like 260 million people, 240 million people have Netflix around the world. Just 240 million people, but there's like 6 billion people with a smartphone.
Yeah.
Like that. See, I mean, even the addressable market for Netflix is to have everybody with a smartphone have Netflix, right? Every person on the planet have Netflix. Every person on the planet have, because when you look at the numbers, if you look at forecasting for like music streaming, right? There's like 415 million people, or I think it's like 600. It might be 600 million people or 400 million people on music streaming services now. By 2030, they're expecting 1 billion people to be on music streaming, and then 10 years from that, 2 billion. So the amount of money that's going to be made, it's coming because the younger people are more into technology. So the younger kids are going to be paying in-app purchase subscriptions and on their phone. So their market is there. That's why I say Fanbase is a platform that is geared towards 20, 25 years into the future, not right now. That's why I say the time is now for us, because everybody else has these giant Titanic-sized companies that they can't just turn around to subscriptions overnight because they're so heavily dependent on advertising. So my goal is to have, and even more importantly, every single person that has a smartphone can subscribe to more than one person. You can only subscribe to Netflix once, but being able to subscribe to one person for $4.99, another person for $4.99, and another person for $4.99, you're spending $15 a month for Kai Cenat, Drake, and Nike. And then and that's a content package that they have all the stuff you love. They're doing everything that you love. And you're just paying $15 a month for that. Trust and believe there's billions and trillions of dollars in that market.
All right. Well, and then you guys get paid. You get paid off a percentage of the subscriptions?
Yeah, it's a rev share. So it's 20%. Apple and Google are gangsters. They're gonna take their 30% of every dollar that goes through the App Store. Apple and Google take. They just G's, right? So we take 20 and give 50 to the user. But that is exactly the same amount of revenue that Twitch streamers get. It's more than what people get paid on YouTube. YouTube takes 55% of ad revenue, and TikTok pays 2 to 4 cents per 1,000 views. So when you're basing it on views, that's unpredictable because again, they're controlling the button, especially if you're black. I say this all the time. If you're black on TikTok, it's hard for you to be more successful on TikTok because everything is based around advertising. So unfortunately, things built by white people in America are thought for all people, to be deemed for everyone. Things built by black people are only deemed to be for black people. So it would behoove these platforms to have very, very famous white users that could sell Dunkin' coffee and shoes and clothes to the broader, audience of people, white, black, Latino, gay, straight, all these audiences. When it comes to black, it's like, oh, it's the black Instagram. It's the black this. Oh, this is the black whatever. So TikTok is looking like, yo, we need young white people to be famous so we can run ads that companies want to advertise to everybody, not just the black market. When you remove advertising out of the way, it lets anybody become as large as they can possibly be. The sky's the limit on how big you can be as a user or creator, because I'm not controlling the knob. I'm not saying, let me turn down the LGBTQ right now because the conservative brand's about to run some ads and they don't want that. Or let me turn down the Black Lives Matter content, or let me turn down what's going on over here for whatever reason. I'm not playing any of those games. That is all done for the bottom line dollar. And you have to do that when you're advertising because that's what pays the bills.
So Kai Cenat you can only see his content if you subscribe to his Twitch?
No, it's free. He has free, but then you can also subscribe. I think a Twitch subscription is like $4.99. He has like 300,000 subscribers. So it's great. But trust me, I'm hearing rumblings of him doing some 9-figure deals that make people be like, "Well, say what? He did what? Like what?" And when that happens, everybody that's been dancing and waiting for one of these companies to come along and sponsor them and give them products and pay them are gonna be like, "Man, what the hell am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, why?" Like the gamers, the sex workers, and the podcasters are the ones that get it. The sex workers and the gamers got it first. Like they've been doing it for years. The Twitch streamers been doing it for years. The OnlyFans, the Cam Soda girls been doing it for years. The podcasters have caught on in the last 6, 7, 8, 9 years, where it's like the amount of money that people are making from podcasts, not advertising, but subscription. But I said when the athletes get it, and the musicians get it, and the actors get it, when everybody starts to get it, it was like, oh man, like I can make my own movies. Now I'm Netflix. I can make my own music and I can bypass the label. I can make workout videos and show my training regimen as an athlete. So when they come and try to sign me for a $10 million contract, I'm like, I'm making that in subscriptions on Fanbase. I need more than $10 million. I need more. Y'all are tripping. Like, there's no way. So that's what disruption is about. There's limitations to the amount of money that people can get. So when you see like Mbappe getting offered $1 billion deal, trust me, that's going to happen to somebody with streaming. That's going to happen to one of these streamers. They're going to say, we're going to give you $1 billion to sign for like 5-6 years just to stream on our platform off subscriptions and watch. That is going to, I just keep saying like, all right, y'all don't believe me till that happens. So it's like, oh, okay, I see this, because the ability to press and click and buy something with your fingerprint or your face scan in real time, instantaneously, with billions of people and impulse purchases, and kids don't look at paper money no more. My little brother's 17 years old. All he knows is he clicks a button and the shoes show up from StockX or GOAT and they come to his house. That's how fast people want to spend. So once you turn money virtual, virtual currency means virtual spending. That means it takes the time for you to get in your car, go down to the mall, take the cash out, wait in line, buy the shoes, maybe get the shoes, maybe not. I can just click a button, I got it. I can click it and I can watch it. I can click it, I can see it. That is the future.
I wonder in that space, right? When we talk about companies, we always look for the moat, right? The competitive advantage that it has over another company. Is it tough to create a moat in this space, or does it have to be evolving? Do you have to change it to make sure that you're ahead of the curve of the companies that are, like you said, there's legacy, there's middle age, and then there's ones that are startups. Are you changing that? Like, what's the challenges when trying to create the moat, or is there one that is substantial to you that other people cannot do?
I think the only thing that I've recognized, right? Like, I'll say, like, I've seen platforms come and go, right? Tech companies come and go. And the major difference is usually a company that's not founded by us that tries to buy the culture, that tries to pay this creator to bring their audience to the platform, and they don't stick. And so one of the things that I'm not worried about is the authenticity of being a Black founded tech company that caters to every person on the planet, but I'm not trying to buy the Black audience. All these platforms are going to have to continue. It's one of two things. They're going to put something out there and we're going to do what we always do, which is the gift and the curse of being Black, is which we can't help but innovate. Like I said, we see a pile of Legos on the table. We just got to make some cool shit out of it. We can't help it. We got to flip it, right? But we're flipping it to someone else's infrastructure. We're flipping it. We're taking someone else's clothes and turning them into the brand or the handbag, or we're taking the app, or we're taking the car, or we're taking whatever it is and turning it into something that on the infrastructure side is owned by somebody that is not us, and they never return those dollars back. So my biggest advantage, I feel like, is being one of the only Black founded social media startups, because again, I've proven, and my team has proven, I can build anything that Instagram, TikTok, Patreon, Clubhouse, YouTube, Twitch. I can build anything that they can build. They can't build me. They can't build us. That is the missing ingredient. It's literally the chocolate and the peanut butter. It's technology and Black culture. You put it together, you have something, boom. You put fashion and Black culture, you got something crazy. You put automobiles and Black culture, you got LED star ceilings and TVs in the headrests and all this other kind of stuff. The innovation part of what it is to be Black, right? You put record players and Grandmaster Flash together and you get DJing. And but then you got Serato and Techniques and Pioneer, and none of us own those companies. And then they're worth $10-12 billion, and Grandmaster Flash isn't worth $10-12 billion. So I'm starting at the infrastructure first, and I say let everybody innovate. So I feel like that's my advantage, is that I understand it's not corny for me to be seen on stage standing next to Lil Baby. That's not corny. That wouldn't look crazy. Me and Drake on stage wouldn't look crazy. I think Lil Baby and Mark Zuckerberg standing side by side will look wild to people. Like, what is going on here? Like, that don't look right. It doesn't look natural. It looks like, oh, he's paid to be here. He's whatever. And that is my point, is that the authenticity that goes with what we're building is real, but it's the tech know-how and making that happen that I think is our secret sauce, which other platforms don't have. And I know this because I hear these people that work at these companies or used to work at these companies tell me. I wouldn't even lie. Like, I leave names out of this, but people call me like, oh yeah, they know about you over at Patreon. I told so-and-so that y'all suck. Fanbase is the shit. The way they roll out product, they kicking your ass on the way that they roll out product. And all of a sudden, now everybody's concerned about algorithmic curation and suppressing content. And I hear what I say coming out of these companies, and I take it as a feather in my cap. I hear, oh, we're doing subscriptions and Instagram does subscriptions. I hear we're monetizing audio, and that's what Clubhouse tried to do, or AMP tried to do, and then they gone, and they were trying to buy everybody in the sun. They were trying to get everybody from Jason Lee to Candy to Joe Budden to Nick Cannon, everybody to come over there at Amazon, and then that company is come and gone. So I was like, it don't work like that. Like, so yeah. I know this.
We've always been a catalyst for innovation, but how do we truly get equity? I feel like we get used whether audience or creator, but what is your plan, and how as a community do we get more equity opposed to just selling off to these bigger institutions? And do we even really want equity, and do we really want to be rich and wealthy?
I mean, of course, I think it's extremely important that we do, because when you look at like when you look about in the 50s and the 60s, the ability for people to take equity from their homes and put their kids through college, while there is this racial inequity gap between black people and white America and stuff like that. I mean, how we get equity in these companies, I think the most important thing of how we get equity in these companies is that we have to allow ourselves to own parts of them and invest in them. Use equity crowdfunding. This isn't like Fanbase is not the first Black company to do this and won't be the last. In fact, like I said, when I got started, I introduced other companies to do this. I have introduced 3 or 4 other startups that have gone on to raise $1 million, and I'm about to do 2 more. I can't say. But my point is, and they're all different companies, but I'm like, I invest in the companies. I put them on Start Engine. I put money into the company just like people put money into mine. Shout out to the Black Bread Company. Shout out to Crown and Hops Brewery. Like, you definitely need to have Crown, Benny Ashburn and them on here, Crown and Hops. You need to have them on here. You need to have the Black Bread Company if you haven't had them already. There's some Black woman founders that haven't launched a campaign that are about to. I think they have a really great app that's about to launch. And there's somebody else that we know that I think is going to do some equity crowdfunding. And I've made all those introductions because I'm trying to perpetuate the ideology of, man, forget these folks trying to deny you a bank loan. Forget these VCs trying to give you less than 1% of $400 billion raised for your company. Forget what's going on with like Arian Simone and them trying to take that with the Fearless Fund and all that because of what the Supreme Court says with affirmative action. It's like, let's invest in ourselves. You start the business. We all invest in it, own a piece of it. And that's the only thing we use. You make the bread company. That's the only bread we buy. You make the app. That's the only app we use. You make the clothes, or the only clothes we buy. You make the car. That's the only car that we drive. Like, you got to talk to, you guys know Derek Bailey. Have you heard of Derek Bailey?
I hadn't.
You need to talk to Derek Bailey. So Derek Bailey is the only Black owned automobile maker in America that I know of. And he's out of Atlanta, Georgia. He has a company called Derek Automotives. A matter of fact, he's trying to corner the car conversion market. He can take a pre-existing gas vehicle and switch it to an electric car in a week. That's going to be bigger than people buying electric cars. Me being able to take my car down to Derek and switch it to an electric car to meet the demands or meet the requirements of fossil fuel consumption, that's going to be bigger. There's 600 million cars on the planet that are gas, being able to convert. And he's trying to train young Black men to be mechanics, the mechanics of the future, to convert those cars. We need to be investing in companies like those. That's how we get equity. That's what we want to do. Like, we need to be, and that's the thing that I say is more important, is when one of the things that I do all the time, and anybody can say this, is when you guys are not in the room, I'm talking about you to everybody. When Ryan Wilson and TK Peterson are not in the room, I'm talking about him. When Pinky Cole's not in the room, I'm talking about her. Right? When Charles and the Black Bread Company, with all these businesses, I'm talking about these people when I'm not in the room. Whenever I get a platform like this to even tell people about it, I'm talking about these people, because that's how we spread this information and let everybody know. That's what I mean by, like, I'm always like, I'm an open book to the information and say, look, I'm talking about everybody. I'll plug anybody with any person under the sun, because I think that's important, because we can't have these silos of, I just want to be the only rich guy, or I just want to be the only popular person, or I want to be the only Black guy in tech. Like, that's corny. Like, forget about that. That doesn't matter. Let's all get in this and like really talk about each other when we're not in the room.
Well, Isaac, definitely appreciate it.
Yes.
Let the people know how to follow you and the futures for Fanbase, if they could still invest, or if they could, how they can download the app and get started.
Well, yeah. Follow me on Fanbase at Isaac Hayes 3. Download the app. I want you guys on Fanbase too, man, because we gotta do some EYL stuff on Fanbase. And I know there are other platforms, but I think there's a real, like, what you guys have. Like, I think you guys would add so much to the community over there by what you're doing. But only thing I'm shouting out today is Fanbase. You can download Fanbase on Android or Google. It's the purple icon with the white F lightning bolt. This F behind me that you see here, this office that you see these employees walking in and out of. Like, this was all in my head, like, you know, on a piece of paper 5 years ago, and it's a 3-dimensional building that's raised $10 million and continuing to grow. So we got to get y'all over there in some audio rooms, some curated spaces, really have some great conversations and start building community. So I want you guys over there. Shout out to Afrotech for joining Fanbase. They joined Fanbase a couple of days ago when I made my comment, but it's like they're there now. So
what was your comment?
Y'all need to be over here. Essence, all y'all need to be. If you're black in media, you should have a Fanbase account. You should really be over there. Shout out to Drink Champs. Drink Champs is over there. EFN, like they're on Fanbase. They're posting on Fanbase. So again, like shout out to those people. So I want more of us over there, because if we blow this one, I'm telling you, I'm gonna be sitting around here like this. Like, we had our shot. We had it. It was right here. Technology, like tech infrastructure from a global level. This is our shot. This is the shot to really get in there and do something incredible. And I was like, we blow this one, I'm be looking like, man, everybody got all the Instagrams, got all the subscriptions and all that kind of stuff. I told y'all, you know what I'm saying? But I just know that this is our opportunity to really take control of an infrastructure play and combine it with the innovation. We're going to do what we're going to do. People getting on Fanbase, making us make changes every day. They say, y'all need to add this. We add it. Like, they innovate it every day. The users are the ones that make the platforms cool. We got to listen. I got to listen to what my little brother says. My little brother says we need live streaming to play video games. What you think I'm going to do? We building like first quarter, first Q1, we going into live streaming. We're going into like, oh, okay, we need to have Twitch like that. Y'all need to have something like Zeus, or y'all need to have something like Netflix on there where we can put the movies in like Tubi. What you think we doing Q1? That's what we doing. So that's what I mean is like, and we're going to innovate those spaces. So, again, thank you guys for always having me on here, man. I appreciate Ian Dunlap, man.
I appreciate you too, man.
I'm gonna earn my spot. I'm gonna earn my spot on the InvestFest stage, on the main stage. I already said that. You don't have to. Don't give it to me. Make me earn it. When it's time, when it's like, man, we gotta have Ike on the stage. That's fine. I thank you guys for having me at InvestFest. This year was a great experience. All the hospitality, everything you guys always show me, man. Y'all some real dudes. I say some real ones. I can call y'all are part of the.
I appreciate you.
It's Roland Martin. It's Charlamagne in the Breakfast Club, and y'all. And those are y'all the ones that have always participated. And Frank Ski, and
shout out to Frank. Yeah,
because y'all have been supporters and real with this from day one.
Appreciate you, brother, man.
man.
Always an honor, man. Keep going. Thank you.